Christian parenting.
In a good marriage relationship, you never stop learning. Join us for this conversation today on Family Vision.
Hi, my name is Amy Rienow. Welcome to Family Vision with my parents, Dr. Rob and Amy Rienow, strengthening families through practical, encouraging, and real conversations.
Hi, Rob Rienow here with Visionary Family Ministries, back with my beautiful wife, Amy.
It's great to be back in the studio together again. I know it seems like we had a while this summer where we weren't doing this as frequently, so it's great to have 2 episodes in a row that we're back talking together. I enjoy it this way the best.
It is better this way. We're on a roll. Before we jump in to talking about learning in marriage and never stopping learning in marriage, I want to encourage you to check out an online parenting event coming up October 15th from our ministry partners over at Christian Parenting. It is the Perfectly Imperfect online event. They have a great team of speakers and topics that are going to help equip you and strengthen you in your parenting mission. They're going to be talking to parents of preschoolers all the way through adult kids, taking on tough topics of sexuality, helping our kids handle their money, navigating the crazy world of tech, teaching kids how to pray, how to deal with bad behavior, most importantly, how to help your kids, how to help your whole family grow in their faith. So the website's perfectlyimperfect.org. That's perfectlyimperfect.org. You get your ticket for this, and you have an all-access pass to the speakers, to the messages, and it launches on October 15th. You'll have access to the whole online conference through the end of the year, so make sure that you check that out. All right, well, last week we shared some of our memories and recollections and special moments from Lissy and Bond's wedding. Today I thought we would turn our attention and talk about our marriage at the 27-year mark, and talk about the current things that God is teaching us, the current ways that we're learning and growing. We've been having this conversation over the last couple of months. Sometimes it feels like we're still at 101 because you feel like you're learning the same the same things you were supposed to learn a long time ago.
It's sort of shocking, actually.
But I think that's all part of the process, and God showing us His mercy and His grace each day in our marriage. So I'm going to have you start. What is one of your current marriage learnings here at the 27-year mark?
Well, I'd like to back that up a little bit with the fact that we are at this phase where it's not only our kids getting married, but our friends' kids getting married. So I am now regularly attending wedding showers. And I'm regularly in these conversations. You know, it's part of my everyday experience now. And one thing that's interesting at these wedding showers is that there's always a devotional that's shared at a wedding shower. So you don't get this experience as the man. You don't go to a lot of bridal showers.
No, I do not.
So, but what's interesting is that almost every time that I sit and listen to a devotional at a bridal shower, I take away something. Like I'm like, oh, that's a good point, or I hadn't thought about that. And all of us as women are talking about, wow, I hadn't thought about that before. One that stands out to me was in a recent shower where they talked about how important it is your first year of marriage to establish a rhythm for your marriage, and that the rhythm of a date night, you know, that you want to establish these healthy patterns early, and the rhythm of praying together. And, you know, I realized that that's something we did not do well in our first year of marriage.
When we first got married.
And whether maybe someone gave us that counsel and we just didn't, you know, do it. I can't tell if I didn't hear that message or maybe I was told and didn't receive it. It could be either way. But, you know, learning that it's never too late to start new patterns. And sometimes I think the enemy can kind of get you feeling discouraged when you feel like you're learning something new at 27 years, or you feel like you're not good at something. But in reality, you're getting that information for a reason, and it's never too late to put these new patterns in. Like you said, as you opened up, really, we always need to be learning. And along in that same vein is that we're doing premarital counseling now with couples that are our kids' ages, which is very interesting, I have to say, because you and I did a lot of premarital counseling for all those kids in our youth group. And we look back at that, like, you know, when we were 25, being married for 2 years, doing premarital counseling, yes, I do have a degree in therapy, but I still question how helpful we were. I think we were overall helpful, but I mean, I think we're a lot
We
more.
at least shared some key Bible verses.
Yes, we did. And I had a background in counseling. I mean, like, yes, but I've learned so much since then. I feel like we are a much better team for premarital counseling now. But it's funny to get to know our kids' friends this way. I feel like I have an intimacy now and their friendship, like, oh, wow, we've talked about some pretty interesting topics together, haven't we? But my point is, in the premarital counseling, I find it interesting when either one of them will say, yeah, well, I still have, we're working on this issue, and I'd still say I have a little bit, I have more learning to do. And I'm like, oh, babe, yeah, I'm still learning. Yeah, 27 years. We've all got a lot more to learn. You're not going to get this mastered in year one, of your marriage.
Yeah. So, yeah, for me, one of the things, like, is an active growth area for me, you mentioned it a minute ago, is getting these consistent date nights with you. And again, a lot of people would say, wow, you should have gotten those started and established in year one. But for all sorts of different reasons, right? Schedule and setting priorities that weren't prioritizing our relationship.
Right.
We didn't do that. And because of our commitment together, because of other areas of strength in our marriage, we had plenty of ups and downs like other couples, but we were doing okay. But it wasn't really until 2, 3, 4 years ago, after we've been parenting, and output, that we're realizing that our marriage tank and our marriage warmth and closeness was really low.
Correct.
Because our primary schedule investment was the kids and doing our ministry together rather than just you and me. So one of the 2021 things, one of the areas that God's helping me grow, and I think this has been, if you compare 2021 to 2020, I would say it's been a growth year. We've had some steps in the right direction. We have a long way to go. And part of what I'm learning with date night is that it's okay if it's not a night. So we're shooting for once a week. That's our goal, falling short. But for instance, as we looked at the calendar this week, all the nights were gone. So we're supposed to get breakfast tomorrow morning. So it's a date morning. But just making that intentional choice, I'm asking God to help me prioritize. Even, I think this is important too. Even if I come to you and I say, honey, I'd really like to find a time for us to go out next week, even if it's not possible next week due to Lord knows what in the calendar and schedule, it still communicates to you that I want that time with you. And if it's not next week, it's going to be the week after or whatever it is.
Yeah, and that's been so important to me, that we are more intentional with trying to make these date nights or date times really happen, because I think us both being extroverted, we tend to think a lot of things, outside of our home and outside of just our own personal life, because that's just naturally who we are. And I think it's important for couples to know that you can get into these bad habits and you don't realize you're getting into them. And I was just having this conversation with RW and Emily and my sister-in-law Meg the other night, saying how we got into that habit was that we kind of depended. We had kids' night growing up. Do you remember how the kids would all go to the library and we'd get little videos for them to watch, and they would be in their own space and have their own dinner, and they got to be in there. We knew that we were going to have uninterrupted time, and while we were calling it kids, they knew it as kids' night. We knew it as grown-up night, because we could sit in the other room and talk and debrief and relax, and we didn't realize that really kind of was our date night, because we couldn't afford babysitting and it just worked that way. But as our kids got older and our family changed, we were losing that time, and it kind of was escaping both of us that we were losing the time, because it truly was like the frog in the boiling pot of water. You just didn't know that you weren't having time together anymore. And these changes happen to our families as our kids get older and life changes, and you don't realize it, I think. And that's just important to give each other a lot of grace. And another thing that I feel is interesting is that I am still learning, and we've been just talking about this in premarital with that couple the other night, of how important it is as a wife, as helper of her husband, and how important that role is. And yet I've been married to you for 27 years, and I still feel like I have a lot to learn on how to help. like how to understand your own husband and what is helpful to him and what isn't helpful, because so often what I think would be helpful isn't helpful. And it's more like becoming a student of your husband as a wife to see what specifically.
Well, I'm very mysterious.
You are very mysterious. We don't have time on this podcast. There aren't enough words, really. But the point is, it's not an easy job that I'm still learning. And I say that with all due respect.
It's true. All right, here's another 101 area that I'm kind of actively growing in right now. Again, as I share this, it's going to sound like something that I should have mastered and graduated from, but authentic sharing. I am growing in my need to listen without interrupting. Mm-hmm. The Bible says, husbands, live with your wives in an understanding way. So if I'm going to understand you, I have to listen to you. I remember, this was a while ago, but you came to me and you said, Rob, there's something I'd like for you to, I'd like to talk to you about, and it's really important that you just listen and not interrupt me. And I'm like, well, you don't have to ask me not to interrupt you. I mean, of course I'll just listen to you. It's no problem. So you start talking, and about a minute into what you were saying, I was like, hey, and it dawned on me, like, okay, you had to ask me not to interrupt you because I have a pattern of interrupting you. Good learning for me. Right. So something I just really need to work on, and I think it's a key way that I have to learn to communicate respect to you, making sure that you are feeling heard, that you are feeling understood.
And in your defense, I come from a constantly interrupting family myself. So we tend to be a family of interrupters. Like, we could all work on that. So
Thank you for softening the blow.
There's just, I mean, you've come by it naturally through many means. But yes, that means a lot to me when I know that you're listening, and that you aren't interrupting and letting me get, my many, many words out, which I realize is many, many words. It just takes a lot of words. The other thing I find that has been encouraging me is to keep reading new information, and that you're never too old to be accessing a good new resource for marriage. And we do this as a couple. That's one thing that's changed, I would say, over the last couple of years, is that we're very proactive on some of our times and making sure that we're getting this input because we really feel that we need it. Often people think because we have this marriage family ministry that we have this perfect marriage, which just isn't this case. This ministry is born from the struggle, people. And so we are always on the lookout for good input. And one that I have found is this book called His Needs, Her Needs, which I found at our church resource table. And I picked it up right away because my mentor, Carol Boo, always said that this was her favorite marriage book, that it really made a difference for her. And so I picked it up, and I've just been learning a lot. And I really like the subtitle of this book is kind of odd. It says Building an Affair-Proof Marriage. And I remember Carol saying that she really didn't like how she phrased the book that way, but I now, reading it, understand why this author did do that, and it's very powerful. But one thing I've been convicted on is one of the man's needs. I don't know if you know this is one of your needs, but it's recreational companionship.
Yes.
And I think about our honeymoon, how we golfed together. Like that we
with alligators.
Yes,
on Hilton Head, South Carolina.
Like we didn't really golf ever since our honeymoon. We've gone to the driving range a few times, but we've never been on a course together. But what I was more struck with the recreational companionship is they were saying, like, even if a wife doesn't engage with all the, doesn't have to do everything her husband does, but she has to be very supportive and excited about it. And, and this is just honest reflection here. Something I've not done well in recent years is being very, positive about all the fishing, because that has been something that, like when we first got married, oh, you love to fish. Oh, I like that. I can get really excited about. And then, just it came to the point where sometimes as a wife, I'm like, okay, my husband's a little obsessed with fishing. Can't get that excited about that, and this book was really kind of challenging me on how important it is for me to be excited about your recreational pursuits, even though if it means I don't need to necessarily go with you fishing. But that's why, and even this is even before the book, that's why I chose to go with you that night at Camp Four Springs to sit. And even then, you were really trying to make me fish, and I didn't really want to fish.
You caught a nice one, though.
Yeah, but you kind of forced me to catch it. But I
actually might have caught it and gave you the pole.
You did catch it and give me the pole. And you really wanted me to like have this experience of catching a fish. And now, lo and behold, I read this book, and it says there's a reason that's normal. Like you would want
this.
That
is normal.
Yes. You want this
yes, I do.
recreational companionship. So that was I'm learning.
I love it. All right. One more for me. And again, this is all in the spirit of ongoing learning, but it's also back to basics, that you don't graduate from the basics. And that is me needing to remind myself and practice these love language principles, these 5 love languages. It's a very famous book. You and I have talked about it a lot. There's 5 basic ways people give and receive love. Make sure I get them the right way here. So there's time, there's gifts, there's touch, there's words of affirmation, and there's service. And people give and receive love in different ways. And if you want your spouse to feel loved, you have to communicate love to them in their love language. So some couples, they all line up. They should have the same love languages.
Yeah, I don't know any of those couples.
I'm not sure either.
I'm sure.
But your love languages are time and gifts. So
Right.
if I pursue you with special time and I buy you presents, then you're feeling very loved. Now, my love languages are touch and words.
Physical touch.
Physical
yes.
touch, right. So if you give me a hug and tell me I'm great, that's pretty much all I need. I don't need the
Well, you
gifts.
need a lot of that. Don't minimize that.
Oh, yeah. Well, you can pile those high and deep, but those are the categories in which that I'm, And so one of the principles, I think, insightful, that you tend to show love the way you want to receive it. Mm-hmm. So because my love languages are touch and words, I tend to hug you and kiss you and hold your hand and tell you I love you and to give you lots of words like that, which is, I think, helpful and important and good. Sometimes maybe it's a little bit smothering. But the problem is I think I'm communicating all this love for you when, in fact, you best receive the communication of love through me spending time with you, back to those date nights thing, and gifts. Now, I got to say this. I don't want to toot my own horn here, but I have, and this is just for the husbands right now, okay? So wives, you can check out for a minute. I did stumble on something. I think I invented it. I don't know. I've never heard anybody else do this before.
I really have no idea what you're going to say.
Okay, well, you hang with me. I think I invented it, and honestly, it's a great idea, especially for a wife that likes gifts.
Oh, no, I know what you're going to say.
On our children's birthdays, okay, we have 7 birthdays with our children. A few years ago, started giving Amy a birthing day present because she was a critical ingredient in the child's birthday.
Right.
Okay, and she was the hero of the day. So a little birthing day present to celebrate Amy, and because she loves gifts, it's a way. Now, this is 7 additional gift days on the calendar.
It works very well for me.
Yeah, well, that's on top of what else we have? We have birthday, we have Christmas, we have Mother.
You're going down this tangent way too long.
Well, okay, all I'm saying, all right, and I'll give Amy a lot of credit here too, that I don't always deliver the birthing day present because there's some birthdays that I forget or I can't or whatever. And she's been, because part of the problem.
I don't expect it.
That's what I mean.
I don't expect it.
That's the downside. If you try to do this, then you set an expectation.
Right,
and then if you
but I don't expect it.
Right, which
it's
I
always
really,
a nice
really
surprise.
appreciate.
I'm actually wearing the earrings that you just gave me, which I really like.
Those are awesome.
Yes,
You look
very
great in
much.
those.
I really like them.
So all that to say, big point. What am I learning at 27 years of marriage? That these love language principles are critical, and that it's not like I learn them once, put them into practice a little bit, but I have to keep learning and keep practicing them.
Right. And along with that, I think what you were saying is, we go back to my His Needs, Her Needs book, because I haven't even shared with you this phrase yet, but I think it's really, really helpful. And it's been kind of eye-opening to me that, when he talks about a woman's basic need for affection and a man's basic need is for sex, and that those are 2 important needs, but different in the wife and the husband. And I didn't think, like you just said, because I'm not a physical touch person, like I wouldn't have thought that I had that high need of affection. But he really explains, affection is not just physical touch. He says affection is the atmosphere while physical intimacy is the event, and that when you have affection in your home and that's meeting the need of the wife, that then it's easier for the wife to meet, to be proactively meeting the need of the husband for physical intimacy. And so I thought that's been helpful for me. It's because it really has been able for me to realize that I need to keep prioritizing, that physical intimacy. And it's so easy, again, as life gets busier and we as women have, we feel drained often at the end of the day, that understanding how important physical intimacy is to our husbands, so it's not something that we can ignore. And if we do ignore it, there will be really negative consequences in our marriage because of that.
Yeah. Well, and all these things we've talked about today, you wrap them in this essential ingredient of a commitment to God and a commitment to each other, where we're asking God to help us lash together when the storms come. We face all the same pressures that you face in your life, and asking God to help us to choose rather than those pressures pushing us apart, asking God, okay, Lord, let all the pressures we're dealing with push us closer together. We want to lash ourselves together, throw our anchor on Christ. Well, we share a lot more of our journey and the scriptures that have helped us in our book, Visionary Marriage, and it's time for a second edition of that book. We wrote a new edition of Visionary Parenting a couple years ago, and a lot of the things we're talking right now could be a part of that second edition. And we also want to point you to that video series, Preparing for a Visionary Marriage. If you or a family member are engaged or considering engagement, the engagement years are the critical years to catch a distinctively Christian vision for your relationship. So you can find Visionary Marriage, the Visionary Marriage video series, the Preparing for a Visionary Marriage video series, all at our website at visionaryfam.com. And a final encouragement to sign up for that Perfectly Imperfect online event. It launches October 15th. Get all the information at perfectlyimperfect.org. And we look forward to our next time with you on Family Vision.